Have you ever heard of the United Nations Security Council? You probably have, but do you really know what it does, how it operates, and why it was created in the first place? These are all the questions that we will address in this podcast. To begin with, we will outline and describe the Security Council as an organization. Following this, we will be treated to a debate between a famous realist scholar and a representative of the United Nations Security Council. The United Nations Security Council is one of the primary organs of the United Nations. Some might even say that it is UN's most important organ at the moment. It was established after the Second World War and held its first session on 17 January 1946. The fundamental goal of the Security Council is simple: to maintain peace and security throughout the world. Peace and security, sounds somewhat contradictory. I know. What you need to know is the Security Council officially is responsible for maintaining stability. It has a number of far-reaching tools to do so. The Security Council could investigate international disputes, and if it deems it necessary, it could impose economic sanctions or approve a military operation to maintain stability. The Security Council is the body that approves UN peacekeeping operations. You might now be thinking of the blue-helmeted soldiers, and you will be right. At least that is one element, and the most visible one at that, of the United Nations peacekeeping operations. Broadly speaking, these operations aim to assist the implementation of peace agreements, establish the rule of law, protect civilians, disarm and reintegrate combatants, support electoral process, reform security sectors, and facilitate humanitarian assistance. Without going into too much detail, this is the main goal of the Security Council. It sounds lofty and idealistic, and it would almost appear as if we have a global government with a global army, with the UN being the government and the Security Council is being the Ministry of Defense. Yet, that also isn't the case. So, how does the Security Council function? Well, to understand that, we need to delve into the actual structure of the United Nations Security Council. The Security Council has a two-tier membership system. Some members are permanent, others are non-permanent. When it was established, the United Nations Security Council had 11 members, 5 permanent members and 6 non-permanent ones. The 5 permanent members are the United States, France, the United Kingdom, China, and Russia. These were the victorious powers of the Second World War. As of 1965, there are 10 instead of 6 non-permanent members. These are selected geographically so as to ensure the best global representation. Africa has 3 seats in total. Meanwhile, Western Europe and Oceania, Asia, and Latin America, including the Caribbean, each get 2. Eastern Europe has the final seat. Like any other organ of the United Nations, the UNSC has over the years been subjected to a large amount of criticism from countries and academics. Specifically, realist academics with their rather grim picture of the world politics. Realists think that, like any other international institution, the United Nations is an instrument for states' coordination in the world political arena. There is no supranational authority in the international relations that would ensure security of the states. Because of this anarchic nature of the international relations, states end up creating international organizations in order to ensure their own survival, and the Security Council is considered to be one of those institutions. Therefore, Security Council, according to the realist theory, is limited in its peacekeeping capabilities because its role is that of an instrument rather than a separate entity, and it's contingent with the power politics. In order to illustrate the current political discourse on the United Nations Security Council, we are now presenting you with a debate between a United Nations Security Council representative and a realist scholar on the key issues or problems of the Security Council and their possible solutions.
Good day.
Hello.
So, from what I've heard, you're not a great fan. of the Security Council?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm not a fan. I just honestly think that it is useless.
Useless?
Yes. No, sorry. Irrelevant. The United Nations Security Council is irrelevant.
How is it irrelevant?
Let me explain. I believe the United Nations Security Council is simply an instrument through which powerful states like the United States, Russia, China act in order to achieve their interests. You see, I'm a realist, and I firmly believe that states are not at all interested in cooperation. They're interested in survival. They want to look out for themselves. They do this out of necessity. They can't look out for themselves and everyone at the same time. It would be exhaustive and completely impossible for that matter. This whole notion of the global community through the UN is nonsense, and the Security Council is a prime example.
So fundamentally you're saying that the only reason that states, and especially powerful states, would use the Security Council is because doing so is acting in their own self-interest.
Exactly. Look, the basic idea is this. States exist in an anarchic system, and they strive to be more powerful than others so as to ensure their own security, and thereby their own safety. For example, the government of the United States is primarily there to ensure the well-being of Americans, not the well-being of Chinese. However, they do have a vested interest in knowing what other states do. And let me bring that back to the Security Council, because that allows them to do so, because it facilitates coordination, not cooperation, but coordination. The Security Council essentially creates a forum which allows other states to know what they are up to.
Wait, let me stop you there. If I understand you correctly, you're saying that the Security Council only exists insofar as states need it. To an extent, I guess you're right. States created the Security Council, so without states it wouldn't exist. However, you're assuming that the Security Council only and always behaves like states want it to.
Well, yes. There's an important theory we realists use to address this. It's called hegemonic stability. Let me unpack it for you. This argues that the anarchic system in which states exist promotes competition. Eventually, this competition would undermine the hegemony. That means that the hegemony just can't last indefinitely. However, the hegemony will try to persist in any way possible. This is clearly why the United States, following the Second World War, established organizations like the UN and the Security Council so as to maintain its hegemony. These institutions allow the US to export its norms to the international community, and it only does so because doing so is essential to its own survival. That's why the Permanent Five, the P5, exist, to ensure the Security Council's decisions stay close to the interest of powerful states and the hegemony. That's why they also have a veto.
Okay, I'm happy that you brought up the P5 because it is actually one of the main things I wanted to talk to you today. You see, there's a growing feeling that the Security Council is overshadowed by the P5, and as a result, the Security Council cannot function as it was intended to.
Well, remind me, what was the Security Council actually designed to do?
Well, according to my notes, it was designed to maintain peace and security around the world, and it made a lot of sense after the Second World War, still makes a lot of sense now, as there are plenty of security crises around the globe and that are worthy of the Security Council's attention in order to make sure that they do not escalate.
Oh, that's all well and good, and the Security Council, that's all well and good, but the Security Council will only do what the P5 instructs it to do. That's why the veto's been put in place, just to repeat that, and to ensure that the world order is preserved. That's why, in this case, that world order is the US hegemony.
But there's also a growing talk of reform. We saw it in 1965 with the addition of 4 extra non-permanent members. I think we might be able to picture a Security Council with no permanent members, or perhaps even no vetoes.
Look, that will never happen. These states have no interest in letting their veto slip away. You see, it all comes back to the simple fact that the Security Council only exists insofar as world powers need it. Let's just admit that. The non-permanent members are less powerful unless they don't have a veto, and they have less of a say, and that's not going to change.
Okay, look, We can agree that the Security Council is definitely not the Ministry of Defense for some sort of world government. I would argue, however, that the Security Council has managed to achieve things that states would not be able to do on their own. Earlier, you spoke of the Security Council facilitating coordination for world security. In fact, I'd argue that it facilitates cooperation. The best example of this would definitely be the peacekeeping operations.
What about the peacekeeping operations? Well, in 1992, the UN AVEM 2 mission was unable to prevent a civil war in Angola, and approximately 300,000 people died because of that. A year later, the attempt to arrest the Somalian warlord Mohammed Farah Adid led to the infamous Black Hawk Down incident and eventually led to the withdrawal of the UNOSOM-2. In 1994, the Arusha peace process in Rwanda failed, leading to the genocide of the Tutsis by Hutu militia and coup plotters. Once again, the UN mission, which in this case was I believe it was the UNAMIR, was unable to prevent this, and 800,000 people died within 100 days. And in 1995, 8,000 men and boys were taken from Srebrenica and murdered by Bosnian Serb forces, regardless of the UN safe area that had been set up and was supposedly protected by UN peacekeepers.
I agree that a large part of the blame for these catastrophes is to be upheld by the UN, but it's important to note the crucial role that members and not the Security Council or the peacekeepers play, and it's very important to remember that the UN Secretariat did not craft the mandates and did not determine the resources for these operations. It's the members and the members only. This leaves the peacekeeping corps of the UN Security Council in an odd and very uncomfortable situation, namely that of being a lone soldier with limited resources, almost no authority, and very little political support offered by the international society. Also, there's more nuancing aspects to the facts that you just laid out. In Mogadishu, for example, in October '93, the peacekeeping operation was conducted by the US soldiers and not by UN peacekeepers, so the latter are less to blame. Similarly, the Department of Peacekeeping Operations had issued warning in Bosnia saying that lack of resources and infrastructure would most likely lead to the failure of the safe zones, yet the International Society of States decided to ignore that. Likewise, the decision to retreat out of Rwanda during the genocide was taken against the advice of the UN's force commander on the ground. They are inarguably flawed, these missions, but the peacekeeping operations have still had a measurable impact in maintaining security throughout the world. I mean, we can see it. Today, the UN still deploys a lot of Blue Helmet troops. As of 2016, there's over 100,000 personnel engaged in peacekeeping throughout the world in the name of the UN. And many believe in a normative transformation of the peacekeepers' role in order to achieve even better tasks.
Yeah, okay. You make a good point, a valid point, and they probably do achieve something. I mean, you can't universally criticize peacekeeping operations. However, I do not believe that UN peacekeepers should be given more agency, for that would likely result in them defending and extending liberal values without the Security Council's involvement. It's the members of the Security Council that legitimize these operations, and they are further legitimized by the P5. In no way should the UN be able to exert an agenda other than the one defined by its members.
You're completely disregarding a large part of the organ's function, though. I mean, in fact, you haven't stopped to think about how the Security Council actually functions, or at least not really.
Well, that's because it really doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. You need to understand that these international organizations should only be considered black boxes. It doesn't really matter what happens with them and within them. All that really matters is what you put in and what then comes out. It's an input-output question. These inputs and outputs are designed to suit the wishes of powerful states.
In this case, that would be the P5, I guess.
Yes.
But you don't even care to actually understand how it works. The Security Council, the inner workings are completely irrelevant.
Look, exactly. Look, I only care about things that are useful to care about, and in my opinion, the Security Council just isn't useful to care about. Look, just take the voting procedure. It's just symbolic. There have been accusations that the US even bribes members of the Security Council through foreign aid just so that they don't vote against a resolution. Why do you think most of these votes are unanimous? I mean, the US is just acting out of self-interest. It doesn't really care about the Security Council.
We've heard about the US bribery accusations before, and we've looked into it. You treat it as a done deal, but our findings suggest something more nuanced. Additionally, if the US was only interested in bribing other countries so that they do its bidding, why then even go through the Security Council?
It's just a useful forum. That's all.
So you're saying that the US is willing to invest hundreds of millions of US dollars in an organization that it deems useless?
Well, at this moment, it's still in their interest to do so. The cost-benefit analysis they've probably conducted has revealed that the investment is worth it for them. But trust me, if it wasn't, you wouldn't be receiving any money.
Okay, good to know.
I think we should call it a day.
In this podcast, by using an exemplary interview with a realist scholar and the UN representative, we aim to express the view of realist theory on the Security Council. This podcast aimed to show both the realist perspective on the Security Council and the criticism of this perspective. The main issue this podcast focused around was the use of the Security Council by the world powers, the so-called P5, as a tool to promote the interests of their own countries. The United Nations Security Council bears realism's imprint in the veto power given to these 5 states. The permanent members are given special authority and privileges in the United Nations system based on power considerations. However, at the end of the day, no single theory could thoroughly explain everything about complicated international organizations such as the United Nations Security Council. However, what they can do is shed some light on some of the functions of the organizations. Even though the realist theory is usually criticized as severely restrictive of the non-state actors' actions, it helps us understand why the UNSC is to some extent restricted in its peacekeeping capabilities. Thank you for watching our podcast, and have a good day.